Good morning, everybody. All right. So yesterday's happy times continued higher this morning. And as the slide shows, they're entering what is a sell zone area. And here on the Qs, so enthusiastic to get on board here. It's gapping up right in between the 20 and the 50 there. Not even waiting to open up to trade through it into that area or into this pivot area right over here at the pivot area you'd see on the hourlies there. Um, so where are they at? We put our cursor there and approximately at 362. I don't know where it'll open. It's still 25 minutes from now. Could be in a different spot. So at the bottom of this resistance area, but the size of the gap up several days in a row, historically, that is going to get sold. Maybe not immediately at the open, but with a pattern like this in a downtrend, typically gapping up into an area like this in a gap of this size is going to get sold into. So be careful of that. Everybody is wishing Dan a happy birthday. Those of you on social media, it's Dan's birthday. Best to go over to Facebook and give him a lot of birthday cakes. And all right, let's get to everything else. Spiders. Coming off their pre-market rally there, gapping above the 20 and kind of in the middle of nowhere by that on the hourly time frame, where it's at, it's gapping above resistance, which is a positive. Now, here's something that that I look at in this manner here is that this area here now is being traded above. Right? So I look at that as it really not being very meaningful at this point. See, the cursor is right above it. So essentially, being up as this is and gapping up to here, if this enthusiasm continues, it might push into this resistance area. Something I want to look at and just look on option activity here. 427-ish. Well, where is it now? 427-ish. 15 days away. Just looking at the volume and open interest at that level. And it's already white. Let me see here. 420. Expiring today. 430. So 430 would probably be the max if this continues. 430 options expiring today. Where is it here? Has the biggest open interest in it, and there's quite a bit of volume already there, anticipating 430. So should this continue higher, that 430 level, and you see how it lines up on the daily chart where it broke down from, if it can get there, we'll see if they buy the dip, if it can get there. I look for that to where it would stall. All right, so it is just looking at here on the bottom of this bar from 1019. And that's 1019. Those are the strikes for today and 430. So should it, we'll see what it does at the open. Might be able to get above this 43.15 if it does continue higher for sure. Probably be able to get to the top of that bar. And down below, Of course, it's opening up here. So that 4220 strike down below, while it's below the average range as a start from yesterday, you got this gap up. And so if I was to put these bars, which would have to go here based on the size of this gap, kind of puts the open in between the strikes. So which way it goes here at the open, either one of these will probably be able to be adjusted in the first few minutes, and you can see it's right on the edge of the average range from day to day. The bottom one, I suspect it's not going to collapse to go down there. Really, it shouldn't. As far as news coming out at 10 o'clock, there's factory orders. I don't know how much of an effect that's going to have. Maybe more so at 10:30. Treasury repurchases of tips. Just making you aware of it. I really don't know how much. The one time that there was an auction and they couldn't sell them, it tanked the market. So just keep it in mind. There's always that news out there. I wouldn't have thought that the auction the last time that didn't go well wouldn't have had an effect, and it did. So it's out there. It's out there. Transports. When we can't tell if they're gapping, really didn't participate very much. What I'm hoping for here, especially with the transports, is that where those other markets are, and clearly this is lagging, that it will come down in the coming days and form a retest pattern. That would be the ideal scenario for getting long, maybe IYT or any of those individual stocks that have similar patterns or have showed relative strength, that this is down here. The Russell, as you know, is already down to this area, and it made a new closing low, and it's beginning to stabilize there. Let's see where this is at. So that's gapping up as well into this resistance area at these pivots. So sizable gap. Odds are there's going to be some selling within the first, I don't know, a half hour for sure, but it could happen within the first 5 minutes because of the size of the gap. Well, there will be some selling. Will it be sufficient selling to cause prices to move lower? We'll see. Interest rates moving down, the 10-year actually gapping down. So that helping to ignite the broader markets going up, coming down toward support here. Just like any other chart, coming down into this support level, and the rising 50 MA will coincide with buyers beginning to step up and those interest rates beginning to stabilize. 5-year, at the moment down below the 50 MA. So positives as far as the interest rates, what's happening there, unless I look, the dollar was also moving down. And that's a pretty severe gap down. So clearly institutions are, as I mentioned yesterday, so many thinking about the end of year rally and jumping hand over fist to get on board here, and everything lining up. But things don't go straight up, especially when they're in downtrends like this. So, but the dollar gapping down and this being a breakout failure and interest rates having some room to move lower, those are positives, into market part of what we look at. This happening, that's clearly a positive. We'll see what the reactions are at support and resistance. Bitcoin down a little bit from its opening price, got above this high. So you got to wonder if this is going to be some type of an M top, short-term top, because this is an igniting move. taking out the high and coming right back in. We'll see if it comes back into where it started that little consolidation from. So I put a little alert there. And gold doing nothing. This is things in the Middle East subsided. And silver not doing much of anything. Let's take a look at, okay, interesting. Look at, so I mentioned this in the letter 2 weeks ago in the newsletter about the 13-week interest rates having a little blip down, and the thought of why would that happen? So when we look at that, we don't know exactly what the Fed is going to do, but it was over here. It was interesting that happened, and it's like, okay, the market is thinking the Fed is done. And now and I said, we have to wait to see what the reaction is. Let's give it a few days, a week or so. And you can see how this is moving down and where it's at. So as this is beginning to roll over, banks are thinking the Fed is done, and this rise in the 10-year and the 30-year and the 5-year have done their job. And that doesn't mean anything really immediate, but you can see, back here, before the Fed ever began to raise interest rates, we made subscribers aware of, this is a problem beginning to happen as this began to move up. So as this begins to roll over, it's the beginning of a positive. We all know inflation is not at 2%, and all of these expenses and interest rates where they are going to slow down the economy still, because just this coming down a little bit isn't going to change what people now have to pay to buy a car, to buy a house, and all of those ticketed items that have high interest rates related to them, and the costs going up exponentially compared to what they were, 9 months ago, a year ago. That isn't going to change too quickly. Other than that, I think today, we'll see how much selling occurs as prices enter their respective areas of resistance where sellers are going to be. You can see this S&Ps, they're at a whole number, 4,300, declining 20 MA. The NQs are in between the 20 and the 50 and up into a resistance area. Dow has cleared some resistance. The other one is a little further off, as you can see. That doesn't mean it'll be able to go alone, but we'll see. And the weekly charts, we'll see what these look like at the end of the day on Friday. So what I mentioned a couple of weeks ago is things started to move down. I think it was as this bar occurred, and then during this bar, I was like, look, there's room to fall. We have to see a range expansion bar that goes deep into a prior red bar. And so far, assuming it closes like this, we have that. So at that point, the factory work says, right, it doesn't mean it has to keep going up. It could come down here and look a little ugly over a few days, but based on a bar like this, we want, unless you get one of these, Dan calls a bull sandwich, which we're not anticipating that, but something like that could happen. Some of you might say, well, what the hell is a bull sandwich? Well, it's a bar. Well, I don't know how to draw it. We'll just put it like this. It would be a red bar that, just say negated this green bar, which would be really nasty. So you don't know if anything like that will happen. What we look at in a scenario like this is to say, okay, we got a big green bar. As long as it stays in the upper half, ideally the upper quarter. Look to buy the dip on the daily chart, and we'll see if that occurs. And that's what we'll be looking for into next week. Well, you're it then.
Good morning. Yeah, we talked about this bullish bounce into the Fed, and it seems like the bulls are out of control right now, happy reading the Fed that there's going to be no more rate hikes, and that just makes it harder to get on board. So it's a little frustrating to that extent, but we've been day trading the last couple of days, couple put spreads. We got a couple longs. I got some up alarms going off. So let's take it day by day. Ton of earnings here. I went through already and went through a couple of them to delete because there's so many. Oh, thanks guys on YouTube for the wishes. Greg just showed me. Roll EAF short. Yeah, you guys got to be careful with shorts. It is kind of a bear flag, but the way it kind of churned up in a grinding fashion is not ideal. Um, we have uranium. I had an up gap here. We're long this. Um, I had an up alarm on Tango Whiskey again. We're long. See, my same thing happened yesterday, but it turned out to be not real. So let's watch that. Uh, there's a couple big up and down earnings, much more bullish ones though. Much more big up gaps here. And I mentioned in the green room yesterday, I was surprised when I saw all these big old gaps, starting with Qualcomm, that I didn't see the Qs moving. I'm like, this is strange. So let's go through them here. PayPal, $55, bounce on a downtrend, no interest. Maybe put spread MRO opening flat. I have an alarm at 27.50. So this is a buy setup with a 3-bar turn. If it can take out today's high, then that's a beautiful trade. So I got my alarm. I set a lot of alarms this morning. Jose asking me, so continue with a bearish sentiment? Well, the quick answer is it depends what time frame you're talking about, Jose. No, I've been saying all week long, if we get above this prior little bar here, it's not marked as a pivot just because of the way we define it. But I think I said 20 MA. I said, as long as we stay under the 20, then I'd be looking for sell setups. This is a short term possible top, but no, I'm not bearish other than maybe for, day trades. But as Greg said, this pattern suggests buying the dip right now. All right, Qualcomm, I mentioned possible downside shakeout. That's exactly what's happening. That's an excessive gap, though, nothing to do. Look at some of these gaps. I mean, $10 gap on Roku, $69. It just, I mean, feels like there's, that term Greenspan used to always use. There's short-term excessive exuberance. Right here, I'm sorry, Z Zulu opening flat. That's a bear 123, but it's down a lot. I mean, this still is a bear 123 and a nasty downtrend. Uh, yeah, Manaz. Remember we talked about put spread on that? I'm like, careful, it's a bio. I mean, that's one of the big old gap downers. We actually have a gap going against us here on Crocs. We're short the 75s, but I'll keep an eye on that in the morning. Yeah, block. We gave ETF to start nibbling, our ETF trader. This is block, and what's this? other ETF, WIGME. Look at WIGME's on my list. My up alarm went off also. WIGME has the Riot and the Mars and that in it. So coin is messy. Mr. Bullish, McDonald's. And yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of continuation patterns, but if the market's going to stall, we call that the tide, if you will. And if the tide is cooked to the upside, you're not going to have the same oomph for new bullish trades to move very much, which would be okay for put spreads. All right, Airbnb, it was down last night, up a little bit, no pattern though. Etsy was down a lot last night, now 59. Now that could be a new short, 30-minute low, because that's a bearish pattern, daily, weekly. So if it cannot bounce, that's the best new short I've seen so far. I'll put it on the other computer. ALB 118, possible 30-minute high put spread. So short-term exhaustion. I don't see any gaps. AUR 190. It's just bottom fishing junk. Dash was a monster gap. Look at this gap. Now, so Jose, I mean, that's a monster gap. But if it trades under, today's Thursday, so if it trades under 30-minute low, then I would consider a call spread for Friday. D. Frank asking about Goldman. Yeah, the problem is, look at XLF had a nice bounce, but it is bullish. I mentioned there were so many bullish turns on Monday with the 180 reversals, but now we're up 3 bars at the 20, gapping up. It's just not. I don't know what to do with that. IR, no pattern. SMCI 264. Yeah, so Alex, this was when we came really close to selling way out of the money puts yesterday, like the 185s or something like that. Here, I'll put that on the bottom right here. Said G is getting whacked. Now we were looking at, these are all earnings trades I'm looking at right now. And we were contemplating selling puts on that. And one reason that kept me out of it was, even though, I mean, the sector's getting killed, this was a earnings warning. And an EMPH got whacked on earnings also, similar patterns. I'm like, I don't trust this sector. But now that it's gapping down, I'll keep an eye on that for one DTE put spread. This is garbage. DXC up a little bit, 21. That'd be a put spread idea. Met opening flat. Yesterday's high. It looks like it wants to go to the 200 and converging 20. Or put spread, 30-minute low if there's any juice. This thing getting whacked to the downside. Man, when you gotta blow up your weekly to see support, that's gapping all. That's close to all-time lows. I don't know what this company does, Confluent Inc., but that looks like the nasty gap award of the morning. All stayed up too much. APA, another one buy setup if it can take out today's high, but remember our A/B test? I liked MPC substantially better because you still got these overlapping bars over here. So, look at them later yourself, but A/B test that I think it was MPC, whichever one I set an alarm on earlier. Echo Bravo, garbage. Herbalife. I think Sam did a short strangle, so that's paying off. It's pretty minor gap, and that's exactly what you want when you sell options in their earnings. Really getting whacked. Now this one though interests me as a possible excessive gap. Look at the support here. The gap filled at 200. I'm going to put this in a window. Really? Satish, downtrend, nothing. Health 107, gap into resistance. If I were in that, I'd be selling right now pre-market. URG looks like, when you see 4 decimal spots, it looks like a over the counter. But that looks higher. CWH gap breakout from a bottoming pattern. See, we mentioned slowing momentum yesterday. And it's down a lot. So that is a definite watch. Put that in a window. Now, the more it runs, the harder it's going to be to get on board. LNC slopping around, put spread, 30-minute high. TS 35, bullish gap, but excessive. Clorox 120. Wow, that's a big gap for Clorox. There's a pro gap. That is a pro gap. Clorox, let's put that in that window. BXP, no prints, set an alarm, yesterday's high. P-core gapping down to 49. That's a big, ugly gap. We'll come back to you. Lemonade, another bottoming pattern. AWK alarm. There, AWK. Gap from a bottoming pattern. You can buy 5-minute high. The only kind of caveat is the market being out of the tick over 1500. AD line 1800 and change. Man, the TBT gap down $2, 5%. Wow. All right, I'm going to put AWK. I told Greg we should have bought TLT. Now the gap's too big. I just think yields are topped out too myself. All right, TDC. This thing stopped out yesterday. AEP alarm. AEP is not bad. Pelletier gaps. Man, that's a big gap. So I know that had earnings, but I think I might have heard that they also got added to the S&P 500. Hey, Alex, XEL from yesterday. Let's give it 30-minute high just to let the market settle out. But I like XEL. But yeah, I mean, there's definite bullish sentiment right now. No, XEL looks great. My only concern is I just want the market. I don't want to get caught up in this craziness. Look at W whiskey from yesterday. Gap reversal on earnings. Climb a weekly. Let's watch that on a pullback. XLU alarm went off from yesterday, Alex. That's in your list. Our Tango whiskey, okay, did not gap up, but it hit the second target. I think I gave 91.50. Let me verify that. Tango whiskey. Yeah, I escaped next target 91.50. That's why my alarm went off. All right, so let's move stop. How about under here? Keep it tight. 90.08. Yeah, some of those military look good yesterday. Let's keep Duke. Weatherford up alarm. We have puts there. Naked puts. Tango whiskey. 90.08. Weatherford. Weatherford, we're short the 85 puts. Said G's rocking off the low. I just saw. I'm always busy at the open here. Said G's finding buyers. Check that sector. ENPH. Check TAN. There's not many. Someone check TAN stocks. Fizzler. Um, shoot, I don't know them all by heart. JKS. Right, Duke. Yeah, Duke's fine. AP. Wow, nice AP. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, Duke. Yeah, Alex, I'd keep it really tight stop all the time myself. This SMCI is coming in too hard. I don't know, so I'm in no rush. All right, let's see. Weatherford. Let's move stop. Let's move stop here. 94.28 Weatherford. IYT had a nice gap. Um, yeah, um, we have naked puts 196. 196 or bid zero. So we met our target on that. Yeah, we said we closed half at 30, half at 10. So we're out of IYT at 20. Campbell's soup, y'all were talking about yesterday, CPB alarm. Man, I got some rockage bars. Said G. Greg, Michael Jackson is even moving. XEL, Alex, or Crocs that were short puts. Man, there's some excessive exuberance. Airbnb gap and craft ugly. All right, so our Crocs. We have the 75s. Let's go ahead and close that at 20 cents. Apple after the bell, as we all know. Netflix filled the gap. Tesla holding strong, but no pattern. Microsoft been strong. Hey, AI bottoming pattern. Let's keep an eye on this. Oh, the Camel soup alarm. Let's see. EB. Nothing to do yet. It was an early alarm. XEL was nice, Alex. That thing's cranking. Shoot. I just didn't want to get aggressive. Remember Triple M we've been watching? Um, Chewy Dog. Your peg would be a 1, 2, 3. Peg looks good. Duke is fine, sure. Yep, Duke to 92. That relay bouncing, RELY, I was watching. Let me see what's going on there. 45. Lulu from yesterday. But I gapped up. Shoot. I would have done a put spread yesterday, but for LSCC, let's see if there's any juice on that for a put spread. Greg, it's like a block pre-market over a third lot over the high. What do you want to do with it now with the gap?
Nothing to do. Wait until it comes back into the gap.
Well, sometimes you say buy a third the gap up. So I'm asking.
I don't think that's a wise move with prices gapping up to a sell area and this underperforming. Better to wait for it to come down or get a continuation pattern.
All right, fine with me. Really look at the gap right to the 200. So see, this was in my category of it's an excessive gap in an area that technically makes sense as opposed to in the middle of no man's land. Problem is there's no the 17 and a half put 0 by 50 cents. So Remility Global Inc. So nothing to do there. HLIT I still have on my list. Alarm didn't go off. I think I have it at 11 bucks. A mix from yesterday broke out on the 15, but garbage. Estee Lauder. Hey, there you go. There's a 180. But I looked yesterday, they sucked the juice out. A Whiskey Mike. Still, it's a bold rectangle. So I keep it on the list. IYT we're out of on the puts, on the naked puts.